right. All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started here in just a moment while everyone's coming in from the waiting room. Happy Monday, right? Monday. Already feels like it's been a week, honestly.
I know.
So,
I tell my
so
team happy Friday every day.
yeah, I love it. While you're joining us, feel free to type in the chat where you're calling in from, something that you're hoping to learn this evening. This is our last right to plug in call before our summer break. We'll have a couple months off, but we've had a number of these calls. And really excited about having Cora and Anya here this evening. We have, let's see, we've got, oh, nice. Tempe, Fort Wayne, Washington. Nice. Good spread. Awesome. So yeah, feel free to keep dropping that in. We're going to be using the chat and the Q&A this evening. The Q&A just makes it a little bit easier to handle those questions that you all have for us and organize those. If Q&A is not showing up on your screen yet, all you need to do is navigate to the bottom and where you see those three dots and it says more, Q&A should pop up. But feel free to use the chat to talk with each other, share what you're interested in. Definitely keep the chat going. We love to see it. So, but if you can, you have specific questions for Anya and Cora, put those in the Q&A. Awesome. So we have, let's see, I feel like we're probably good to go. So with that, again, keep it in the chat where you're calling in from if there's anything you want to learn tonight or something you're curious about. And with that, Erin, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. Thanks for getting us started. I'm Erin Hellkamp. I'm the Associate Director for the National Solar Activist Network, and I'm on our policy and advocacy team here at Solar United Neighbors. So, really excited to have such a great turnout this evening or afternoon, wherever you might be. And then super excited to also welcome our special guest speakers for this evening. So, here's a quick agenda of what we're going to cover today, just so you know what to expect. We're going to introduce everyone to the group as you introduce yourselves. So great to see everyone from all over the US. We're going to do an overview of plug-in solar, and we're also going to share the state of plug-in solar in the United States as it is right now. We're also going to have a conversation between our two guest speakers. They'll talk about the plug-in solar movement and what's ahead for that movement, potentially all the way to 2027. Then we'll have a few Q&A. We'll pull a couple questions from the chat and we'll answer some of those, but we'll also be trying to answer those live. As you can imagine, that's a lot, but keep those questions coming. And then we'll talk about next steps and how you can get involved in the movement. We can go to the next slide. All righty. Well, I am very excited. Some of you may be new to Solar United Neighbors and BrightSaver. So it's really special this evening that we have two of our fearless leaders of the solar movement. We have Anya Schoolman, the Executive Director of Solar United Neighbors, and we also have Cora Stryker, the co-founder of BrightSaver. They're going to be joining us to share more about plug-in solar movement. And I'm going to kick it off to Anya to talk a little bit more to tell you about who we are at Sun.
Thanks, Erin. Hello, everybody. I'm loving the all the names and locations in the chat. I feel like I've met some of you before, and I've certainly been to your towns, and it's so great to see such a broad turnout to this meeting tonight. I saw there was a question in the chat about will we share a recording, and I think the answer is yes, we usually do. So you can share it beyond who's here tonight. I'm going to give you a little intro to Sun. They told me 2 minutes, which I've never been very good at holding to the time limit. So somebody could squawk if I go too long. But Solar United Neighbors actually started almost 20 years ago, 2007. And it was started by my son, Walter Lynn, when he was 12 years old and his best friend, Diego. And it was really started with the idea of they'd gone to see the movie Inconvenient Truth. They were worried about climate change and they wanted to know what they could do. And We live in Washington, D.C. They were raised all around the federal government, local government, and their belief was that the people had to take on the solution. And they tried to get us to go solar in our house. It was totally confusing, it was expensive. And so what we ended up doing was organizing the neighborhood, and they created something called the Mount Pleasant Solar Cooperative. And they went door to door dropping leaflets. At the end of 2 weeks, they had 45 houses signed up. And then we were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And what came before was sort of magical. And it feels like I stepped onto a river that I've been riding a raft down ever since, because all these people came in and contributed and helped and studied and learned. And we ended up passing a bill in 2008, and we took 45 houses solar. No, we passed a bill in 2008, took 45 houses solar in 2009. And then the river got bigger. More people heard about it. Discovery TV actually did a documentary that featured us. And then I started getting requests from all over DC. And then there was, could you help us do in this neighborhood, in this neighborhood? We were just volunteers. So I was sending the kids out. We were teaching other people how to do what we did, and we were learning along the way. And then something, a couple more years into it, about 2011, something else happened, which is we realized when we got into every major political ward in DC, we could start passing bills unanimously because we had territory. We had one neighborhood group in each political district. And then we started to work on access, which is kind of one of our big themes today. So we went from just people who could afford it on their own homes. We went to community solar, and then we passed the nation's first Solar for All bill that would provide solar for every low-income household in DC to lower their bill by 50% by 2035. And so it was a movement, and then it spread state to state. And then I'm going to fast forward. Here we are almost 20 years later. We're a national organization. I have 105 staff. We have programs on deployment in 12 states plus DC and Puerto Rico. And we're running national campaigns like this. We really are working on bringing volunteers into the movement and really believe in collaboration. In fact, our theory of change is go solar, join together, fight for your energy rights. And you can join and start anywhere on this cycle, because the idea is we go around this cycle and it gets bigger and more powerful every time. So you might go solar with us and then you start to learn about it. And when we take people solar in groups, we don't just give them the price and here you go. It's an education process. And then we bring in volunteers, we train volunteers, we activate people, and then we pass bills, and then we do it again. And so that's what Solar United Neighbors really is at its heart. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about this plug-in solar campaign, which has just been one of the most exciting things we've worked on in a really long time. Now I'm going to pass it over to, so you can hear from Cora, and then we're going to do a little bit of background and then have the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to see everyone on Zoom. This is so exciting. I am Cora Stryker. I'm co-founder of a nonprofit called BrightSaver. We started a year and a half ago. We are babies in comparison to this extraordinary network that you have built. But it's been a wild ride. And actually, Erin, you have the beautiful balcony solar panels. My co-founders and I started a year and a half ago because we saw what was happening in Germany. I don't know if you can see on Erin's background right now. I mean, this is what it looks like in many German cities. We have these tiny 800 watt, 1200 watt, 400 watt solar panels on people's balconies. They actually have a German word for it, which I will embarrass myself to say, Balkonkraftwerk. Please correct me. And it's ubiquitous. 1 in 10 Germans have these. And we thought to ourselves a year and a half ago, this is it. This is how we get clean energy into the hands of almost everyone. Renters can have it. You can plug it into the wall, unplug it, take it with you when you move. But our theory of change was very different than it is right now. We started with this idea, oh, low to moderate income households need financing. If we can match their monthly payments for these balcony solar panels to their monthly savings, and we actually guaranteed that, then we will open this market up. We will open this technology up to a truly almost universal group of Americans. Not universal, some people still can't afford a few $100s, but much closer. So our story is that we ran into trouble with regulations quite early. And we learned that the only rules on the books are intended for rooftop solar, which are systems 5 to 20 times as large. Interestingly, sometimes a setback can be the best thing possible for what has turned into a movement. So if we could go to the next slide, I think we have. So this is what we're talking about, these little panels, and these are all photos from the United States. These are all panels that we, BrightSaver, have brought to households. That's me on my balcony. And they're tiny. They are similar size to what we have in Germany. We have 1200 watts, 800 watts, 400 watts, 360 watts, and they offset a piece of your energy bill, and they will never cover the whole thing. However, they are so low cost that they are accessible to an entirely new group of Americans. Honestly, this pent up, very eager group of this country that is so excited, that wants solar, but hasn't been able to get it because they can't afford it. They don't have community solar. They live in an apartment, have no access to their roof. So if you look, I mean, the average savings are in the hundreds of dollars, and the average cost of these systems is a few $100s to the low thousands. So they pay back pretty quickly, 4 to 5 years in this country, and that will only go down. In Germany, we have paybacks of about 1 to 3 years. That's because it's a much more mature market. You have many manufacturers there, and it's a race to the bottom for them. The only differentiator is price. So they go pretty low. If we could go to the next slide. How do they work? They're very similar to the solar arrays that we're familiar with. You've got your PV panels on the left. They're producing direct current. You have your inverter that converts the DC to AC. Here's where it's different. You don't have an electrician hardwire it to your electrical system. Instead, you plug it into a standard outlet, and that is the game changer. That is why a renter can have it, because you can take it with you when you move. It's not a permanent fixture at all. Where we get into the need for legislation is in this final rightmost step. What happens to the excess electricity? So under normal circumstances, these systems are so small that the electricity you produce will be consumed on the spot if you have a modern refrigerator, for instance. In some cases of these larger systems, though, the sun is shining, you go out to lunch, you may be producing excess electricity. And so all of the legislative change we need happens at this final step. What happens to those electrons that are extra, that you're not consuming? And you can do a couple things. One, you can have a battery at this final step that it will fill up with most of that electricity. Two, you can install a complicated piece of hardware at the last step. An electrician has to do it. But we don't want that. That's never going to get us to the German model of 4 million households saving on their electricity bills. So if you go to the next slide, this is what all the legislation centers on. It's really defining the relationship between the utility and the consumer. And it says, hey, these interconnection rules were not intended for these little systems. They were intended to solve different safety concerns for higher wattage systems, and they don't apply. Utah started this whole thing a year ago, and if you talked to me, or sorry, a year and 2 years ago at this point, if you talked to me a year ago, I would have said, Aaron, I think we did talk. I would have said, maybe we'll get 2, maybe 3 states to introduce this legislation. In the end, we had 35 states plus DC. So it's really this extraordinary wave driven by customer demand. People need this. They need it now. They need relief from energy bills. But everything in the legislation redefines this interconnection agreement and says these little systems are exempted from the traditional interconnection agreement that can be expensive. You can wait for months. It just doesn't apply to these systems. And it also sets safety standards, and that is incredibly important. You can go online right now and buy a rogue plug-in system, we call them, that are not certified by any testing laboratory. We don't want anyone to do that. So all of these bills make those systems not in a gray area. They make them flat out illegal. You need to have safety certification in order to use this technology. So if we could go, oh, and the last piece is we have to set a ceiling of wattage. That's super important to make sure that we're not exporting such large amounts of electricity to the grid that we have load predictability issues. At these small systems, 1200 watts and below, all of the electricity that you produce that's excess will be consumed at the neighborhood level before it even reaches the transformer. We have a study actually that shows that even if 40% of US residents had these 1200 watt systems, there would be no net export at the transformer level. It would all be consumed at the neighborhood level. So if we go to the next slide, I mean, this is the moment we are living through. I mean, we have seen this. I mean, I called it a movement from the beginning, but it actually, I think, I think it has become one. It is referred to one. I believe it is 35 states plus DC. People want this. Legislators want it because it costs them nothing and it gives their constituents relief. So we are just thrilled to be here. We couldn't have done this without Sun and all of the folks on this call who wrote the representatives and made calls and wrote op-eds. So thank you.
Thanks, Cora. Yeah, so sorry, it's Erin here, in case you can't see me with the slides. Pictured here is also something really exciting is we're going to move on to some of our great wins, but pictured here, Sun and a lot of other fellow organizations were invited to participate in the bill signing in Virginia. The governor was in attendance and she actually signed that bill which will go into effect in January 2027. But it really shows you how much interest and momentum there is here in this particular movement. And it's really been a huge opportunity for elected officials and others to get engaged in this and make a difference in the energy affordability solutions. So if we could go to the next slide, please.
Hey, Aaron, can you
Oh, yeah.
explain the colors in that map first, real quick? Or is that too complicated?
I think I can. I think I can read it. Yes. Yeah, so we still have some bills that are active, and those will be indicated in that light blue. We have bills where it looks like they were filed, although they did not pass. So those will be like the darker gray versions. There's also bills that have passed at least one chamber, are indicated in that yellowish color. And then in the green is the really excited ones, or teal. That's the ones that we passed. So really amazing. I mean, you can really see that map filling in. So super excited, but lots of opportunities too as we continue to move these bills forward. The next slide, please. So we'll kind of break it down. We're not going to go over all of these, but this is just kind of reiterating the states where we did see plug-in solar pass. So Colorado, Connecticut, Maryland, Maine, Vermont, Virginia, and of course Utah leading the way in 2025. So that's really significant, a huge deal for bills to be passed in their first year in these legislatures. So kudos to all of you. This is really a testament to all your work to reach out to those folks. And then we've also, we're expecting in New York. It did pass for the first year, which was another huge milestone, a very big state, big solar market. So it has passed the House and Senate, and we're just waiting for Governor Hochul to take action. So we're giving advocates the opportunity. Please reach out. If you're in New York, please make sure the governor hears from you and why plug-in solar is so important and is necessary in the state. And then we're also waiting in New Hampshire, hoping that the governor will also take action there as well. So that means we could have at least 9 states just online and ready to go to bring plug-in solar to their constituents. And then we have other bills that are really making moves. So California, that's a huge solar market, as we all know. It's already passed the Senate, and so we're waiting and keeping an eye on that movement as well. There's a couple other states that still have some potential, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. And then there's also some bills that are where we're still actively engaged in advocacy campaigns. You'll see DC, son's birthplace, I guess, as you could call it. We're still waiting there. It's had a hearing, but the council is extended right now, so it hasn't moved, but we're hopeful there. And then we also have several other states that we're waiting for committee hearings. And then, of course, there were some bills that did move. It passed in Hawaii and Minnesota, as I saw someone mention in the chat. So we did make it a fairly far in the processes there, which was very encouraging. But sometimes bills run into deadlines. So they unfortunately did not make it past several of those. So we're hoping to come back next year and actually very much planning in Hawaii and Minnesota to rebuild those coalitions that Sun and BrightSaver and others really participated in. So it's been really important for Solar United Neighbors and others to lead and co-lead those coalitions. We're actually working alongside with BrightSaver, Third Act, Environment America, Vote Solar, I always for Climate Change Makers, and several others to lead a national coalition to make sure we're coordinated on these efforts. And then at the state level as well, we find that we're bringing together those groups, which is essential in coordinating on messaging when you're putting together an effective ground game or even coordinating on earned media or external pressure, joining one of those coalitions. If you're out there and you're part of an organization that wants to get involved, it's really important that we're all on the same page and we're all rowing in the same direction. So we love leading those and participating in those coalitions. And please reach out to us and we'll give you a way to do so if you're kind of interested in leading the way in some of those states. So next slide, please. And so we've already accomplished a lot of amazing things together. And that really is, again, thanks to all of you that have we've enabled, this has been a new campaign for us because it is on a national scale, but really each of these bills is passed on the state level. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts. And because of all your great work, we've already sent more than 12,400 messages to state legislators, and that's just since the beginning of January. So these are messages from constituents to their legislators to let them know why they want plug-in solar, why it's important, and how they can bring it to their state. So we've had over 4,800 people take action via our action page. We have a central Solar United Neighbors at plugin, solarunitedneighbors.org/plugin, and that's where you can go, and we'll provide that in the follow-up resources. But that's where you are able to go and click on your state to really find different ways to get engaged in the plug-in solar campaign. And so you can stay up to date easily that way and contact your legislators. And we also have a really cool thing at Sun that we've been ramping up, and shout out to you if you're a Sun dialer. Our sundialers are volunteers that help us send out text messages to a lot of our folks, which is super huge. It sounds like a minor thing, but honestly, it's really helped us grow the movement and really get more folks involved. So it's something easy you can do from your couch. And they've sent over 161 text messages. Isn't that crazy? And it's all to promote plug-in solar and passing it in all across the US. So kudos to all of you and all the great work that you've accomplished. The next slide. All right. So building off of that momentum and all the great work that you all have done, we're going to hold a cool conversation between Cora and Anya. They're going to really talk about the impacts of all these recent wins, the huge momentum that we saw with 35 states and DC filing bills for consideration. And they're going to talk a lot about, what that means for the overall movement. So I'm going to help kind of moderate this discussion with them. They have amazing knowledge around this topic. So I'm going to really let them take it from here. But just to start us off, Cora and Anya, now that the dust has settled on this huge plug-in solar wins, where do we go from here? I think that's what everyone wants to know.
We keep up the momentum and drill down harder on the barriers. So as you saw on that map, I mean, we didn't pass everywhere, but in all those states that introduced, every single one wants to come back. There are some that didn't get a chance to introduce legislation, like Texas. They are already gearing up for next year. So we have to support the movement. We have to keep driving it. We have to overcome new barriers and new questions that keep coming up. And we're happy to discuss those. But we also see that as the tip of the spear into the wider solar and clean energy movements. We think this is an accessible solution that we want people to see in their neighbors' backyards and see that anyone can have it. And have the light bulb go off. Hey, look at your energy bill, see it going down, know that you don't have to pay any more for the solar panel you purchased. And we are super excited about it, supporting what you all have been working on for decades now. Curious, Anya, how you see this little, this is kind of these tiny solar panels, but we really do think they could change the world.
I agree, Cora. And I'm looking at all the questions, and so many people are like, well, where can I buy it and how can I get it? And that's so much like we're building a market, right? We're
Yes.
building an opportunity, and a
Right.
few more states, and it cracks open, right?
Right.
Because the
Right.
manufacturers and all the industry needs to see that it's worth it, that they'll have an
Right.
opportunity. And so breaking down the barriers to get to sort of that critical mass where all of a sudden, I think floodgates open, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking
Yeah.
for. And for me, it's just so amazing because, I was talking about our theory of change in the beginning, and what we see, and I think it's going to be true with balcony solar too. You have one panel, even just one, and all of a sudden, you're an energy producer, not a
Exactly.
passive energy
That's right.
consumer. And once you have that, you start to understand your energy bill, you know what a
Right.
kilowatt hour, and you start to ask yourself, why are the utilities charging us so much? And who are
That's
making
right.
those decisions? And so it's really a key towards taking back the whole sector sort of into a democratic. We have what's called a captive regulatory system where essentially the large, big, Wall Street owned, investor owned utilities make rapacious amounts of money.
Yes.
Bills are skyrocketing.
Right.
And largely, the regulators have been asleep at the wheel. And you look at the regulators, and there's a revolving door. They go to the utility, then they become a regulator, then they go to the governor's office. They're not fighting for us. And So it's really connected, like reclaiming American democracy. These panels is going to be what lets us do it. That's
Mm.
my belief.
I love that. Yeah, and we feel that they need to get into the wild. People need to see them. They need to touch them. They need to feel less disempowered. I mean, I think that, you mentioned inconvenient truth, and I think that there's a general feeling in the climate movement that was a visionary piece of warning, but like we've passed the point of warnings. We are now in the era of climate change, and nobody, well, few of us doubt that. But at the same time, we're at this extraordinary moment where clean energy, solar in particular, is cheaper. And I think that is the fundamental thing. That's the question I ask myself every morning. Why? If energy has never been cheaper to produce, why are our electricity bills going up? And you started to answer it, Anya, but I mean, I think it's a really simple question with a really complex answer. But that it to me is what drives this whole thing is going from, oh, there's nothing I can do, I can't get solar, I can't be a producer, to actually there's something small I can do, and that small thing leads to empowerment and hope, and then that becomes a big political wave and a big consumer driven wave.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. I guess we're agreeing with each other and agreeing with each other.
Yeah.
It is that you, when you make your own power with solar, whether it's on your roof or you're hanging it out your window or on your balcony, you are lowering your consumption of energy. And it's kind of like growing your own tomatoes
Yeah.
instead of buying them at the grocery store. And you might do it to save money. Many people grow gardens to save money, and some people do it because the higher quality of the vegetables or both. But for years, the utilities have been saying that we're taking from the system instead of giving the system.
Right.
And what I think is so important about balcony solar is it kind of wins the argument on affordability and energy,
Yeah.
where we can show you can just offset your use with these little simple panels. We're not bothering anybody. We're not taking away anything from anywhere. And it really turns the whole conversation on its head.
That's right.
And it's hard, I think, if you haven't been in it to understand the extent to which there's been a deliberate misinformation campaign about solar that's put barriers up because in most of our states, the utilities own the old kind of generation and they're trying to protect their profits. So I think it's what I'm feeling like I'm sounding more radical than usual tonight. So you must have
Yeah.
been on a funny night, but I think that there's a lot of like reading the comments here, and people are like, "Well, what about this? What about that?" And I'm almost want people to just say like, "We need to make it legal first, and then there's going to be a push to regularize it." And we love the early adopters, but it's going to get easier and easier and easier, and that's when it's going to get really exciting.
Yeah. Amen. And I will also add that like the way that we're fundamentally bending that cost curve to the equipment costs themselves is we're getting rid of soft costs almost entirely. We're getting rid of we're getting rid of installation costs because we have self-installation. And so really we see this decline in price by almost 50% just by passing this legislation. You're quite right. There are other barriers, but we can't pass go until we get these bills passed.
I'm wondering if there's somebody's got a dying question they're dying to ask that we should pluck out of the chat or something, Aaron? Or are they all too, they're very technical.
Right.
The
Yeah, right now, technical. I think if I could kind of follow up with a question, I think it would be kind of interesting. We've talked a lot about how this is a huge milestone, and how do we ensure that plug-in solar becomes a tool for energy equity? for folks that may not be able to adopt traditional solar. And by traditional, I mean rooftop solar.
Yeah.
You want to take that one, Cora?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ways. I mean, one, the total price tag is in the hundreds of dollars, and that's only going to go down. So in Germany, you can go to your grocery store, your hardware store, and get these for a few $100s. And the payback there is quite extraordinary. It's 1 to 3 years. We're not quite there yet because our technology is not it's not as mature a market as it is there. And I was in a California hearing a few weeks ago, and it passed unanimously, except there were two abstentions, and both legislators had the same reason. They said, "Hey, these cost $400 or $500. My constituents still can't afford $400 or $500." So they're like Anya said, there are going to be waves. I mean, I actually can't wait to get back to BrightSaver's original model, financing, making these systems accessible so that there's no net payment month to month. You don't have to wait years for a payback. You can literally pay it off immediately. And I think there might be a role for incentive and subsidy programs. But what's quite extraordinary about these little panels is that because we're getting rid of soft costs, they become so much cheaper and more affordable just by themselves without subsidies.
Yeah.
And that to me, I mean, I know you live in DC, Anya, but that to me is super exciting. That it really is a different legislative model. It's not going to government and saying, "Hey, please jumpstart this." It's saying, "Hey, please get out of the way with the red tape
Right.
while ensuring safety standards." It's a market-driven thing, as you were saying.
Yeah, I think it's really, and I mean, the first thing in terms of equity that's, I think you said this, but I'm just going to say it again for emphasis, is so many people want solar and they can't do it because they don't own their roof or they don't own the property. And so even before we get to income qualified, people who are really struggling, um, there's a whole millions and millions of people that just get a lot, they get to come into this and play here because it's portable. And
Yeah,
we're seeing this also with plug-in batteries that are coming. You pop one on top of your fridge, keeps your fridge in one socket going during a storm, and then you have your balcony solar. It lowers your bills a little bit. And when you move with it, right? So it's a whole new, it's sort of getting to like the internet of energy where it can be distributed, it can be talking to each other, it can be interconnected, and it can benefit the whole system. So that's one thing that's really exciting. The other thing I just wanted to say about the equity is that Sun has been working on this issue really since the beginning. Our very first motto was solar should be accessible and affordable for all. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did we know that that was like the essence of it? But somehow, I guess it was having, teenagers running the show, and we figured it out. And so whether we were passing community solar or whether we were passing low income solar for incentives, I think
yeah,
this falls into the same thing. It's a new technology. One of the things that I would be really excited to see in the future, for some at least, is we get to the point where we've passed the bill, the markets of domestic manufacturing, they're cranking it up, the prices are dropping, the installation pathway is clear, and we can start doing bulk purchases, like bring a
yeah,
container into a neighborhood and you
that's right.
buy them wholesale. And let's say everyone adds a little bit to their bill, so you get 20 systems that are free for people in need, right?
Yeah,
And there's just so many exciting, interesting models to bring everybody into the market.
yeah.
And the fact that these are less expensive means it's less complicated, right? To get it done.
Yeah, and I love that idea. I mean, that's something BrightSaver is thinking about a lot and this relates to the question of where do we go next? I mean, we have to come together as a formidable negotiating bloc. on two levels. One at the legislative voter level, a body politic united for clean energy, but also as a consumer bloc. We need to do, Anya, what you were saying you did at your neighborhood level. We have to come together. We believe in the millions, maybe the tens of millions someday, and we need to negotiate. And actually, BrightSaver, we're a nonprofit and we're working on this right now. We are negotiating bulk purchases on a much larger scale than the neighborhood. And we are really scratching our heads trying to get these systems to consumers for under $300. So I hope to be able to announce that. We're in the middle of negotiations with manufacturers who sure don't want to announce what they're giving it to us for, but it's all about numbers. If we have enough consumers who want the thing, then we can negotiate on their behalf to their benefit for us, because we're not taking a cut. We're a nonprofit. We're philanthropically supported. And that is how we become unstoppable. And, I don't know if this is the place to get into geopolitics, but I think about that a lot. I think about, whichever nation controls clean energy production is going to control the future for generations to come, because clean energy is cheaper. And so if you control it, your nation controls geopolitical dynamics. And we at BrightSaver feel strongly we need to turn the tables. And we kind of imagine this as like we as a national movement need to sort of be the AARP or NRA of clean energy. And if we get the numbers large enough, we can get the negotiation bulk purchase low enough that we can almost get to German prices now. Not quite, but we're heading there.
And soon we'll be there, right?
Yeah, we will. And whether, it'll be a market competitive learning curve, and that is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that model, I mean, so Solar United Neighbors has, I think, 1.2 million solar owners on our national list. And the idea, again, is the more you have, the more power you have, right? But
Yes.
you need to be real not just electronic, but you need to be real on the ground with real impact in all the places where you're trying to make change. And I keep seeing these people saying, if you want to do this here, contact me in the chat. So I think if we don't catch you all in these calls in the notes today, you know how to reach us. And I don't know, Aaron, maybe you want to pivot to the next steps and where we're headed to make sure we don't forget that. And just know that everybody who's on this call, it's the 277 people on this webinar right now. We need all of you. This is a group project, and
Absolutely.
It's about energy democracy.
Yes.
And we want to put this in everyone's hand, this kind
That's
of
right.
control and money savings, right?
Yeah, and I'll just add, I am the person who hung my sheets out to dry when I was a renter. You know what I mean? I compost, I'm sure many people in this call do, but I would get really depressed when I thought about carbon footprint. I think I got so dismal when I read that my personal carbon footprint is 0.0000901% of global emissions, which is nothing. However, it's all about the numbers. It's all about the movement when we come together to try to change policy to favor clean energy. And when we come together as a formidable negotiating bloc, politically and on the consumer level, we really can make our personal carbon footprints with solar on our balconies, with solar on our roofs. We can make that matter and be super consequential. And I'll just say, this is a global movement. Many folks read about the UK passed their plug-in solar bill. Guess who they were inspired by? Us. They looked at what was happening in the United States and they thought, we should get a move on this. I talked to someone in the clean energy department of the UK government a few months ago. The world is taking note, and we have a responsibility to finish the work that we started this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think too, thank you, Cora and Anya. And I think an important part of the movement too is, anyone can go solar for any reason, right? And so there's also it's just economically smart to put solar on your home or to buy one of these plug-in solar panels. I think at the end of the day, we can all come together and unite around these rising energy costs. It's not fair. We're at our costs are rising in our households, and this is one tangible way that people can really at least make a dent to help lower those costs. So I think it's a huge way for everyone to come together. It's really a bipartisan movement as well, and
Yeah.
no matter where you're coming from, I think it's a promising and hopeful plug-in solar can bring it there. And so that's what we're really seeing across the movement as well. Annie, would you mind just bringing back the slides? I know everyone will miss our wonderful faces, but now that you all have kind of heard about, or hopefully feeling inspired about the movement as a whole, we've celebrated a lot of our wins. There's lots of different ways that we can continue this work. We're not done. We've got a lot of work to do that's going to continue over the next few months. And we have several states that we still need to bring plug-in solar to, but then also there'll be a deployment piece, right? Like we want to see plug-in solar in the hands of folks in those states where it did pass.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing a lot of Sun, BrightSaver, and Third Act. We're actually working on coming out with a consumer guide, or at least a preliminary consumer guide to really help people understand and navigate the plug-in solar marketplace. So look for that coming out. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to our help desk, which we've put in the chat a couple times, and we'll share in the follow-up materials. We're also gonna, in several states, we'll have plug-in solar show and tells, as Cora said, putting them out in the wild. Legislators get really excited, including the bill sponsors, like they want to see what they're advocating for and really understand. You'll see in this picture, this is actually Representative Rader in Ohio, who's checking out one of these solar panels with one of our staffers, and it's really a tangible motivation for those folks. And they can leave it in their office and teach other legislators about it as well. We're also going to hopefully gear up our constituent meetings. Your state legislators do want to hear from you, particularly in these days where energy costs are high. They want to know what you're really dealing with and how potentially they can offer these solutions to their constituents. We're also going to hopefully keep up the pressure with op-eds and letters to the editor. Media attention is very important to this movement, and keeping up that momentum, I think, is going to get a little harder over the coming months. And so we want to keep an eye on that and make sure that your stories are getting out there and getting the attention that they deserve. That really helps change decision makers' minds. So sharing your personal story as well. We love to hear those, particularly here at Sun. We love to hear how we've gathered. We actually have one on our website that you can find from Russ, who's in Nevada, who talks about he has a lot of shade, and so he can't install rooftop solar. And so plug-in solar is the only option for him. So just sharing your personal story and making it showing practical ways that you can use it is also really helpful as well. And then Sun and BrightSaver and others, we're going to continue to get involved and lead at the national and state coalition level. We're taking all this knowledge of all the things that we've learned over the past 6 months, and we really want to contribute it to the movement. So I've seen a lot of folks interested in getting involved in their state. Shout out to South Dakota. I'm really excited to work with you. We've got a lot of really exciting opportunities, thanks to all of you and that great number of resources that we have with our advocates. So if you could just go to the next slide, please. Here's what you really wanted to know is how you can keep up the momentum. And so don't worry, we'll follow up with all these links. There's the Solar United Neighbors campaign website. All of the states are clickable, so you'll be able to click on the latest action that you can take. Maybe there isn't anything happening in your state quite yet, but I encourage you to sign up for our list. And then as soon as we activate as soon as we start a campaign or start having activations, we'll reach out and let you know when the time is ready. But you can always reach out to us anyways, and we'll figure out how you get you plugged into the campaign. We're also taking signups for meeting with your state legislators. Education is really important. Legislators can't know everything about everything. And so hearing from you really helps them get their questions answered. And it's okay if you don't know all the answers to those questions. We have a lot of talking points that can help you get through that meeting, but really establishing those relationships early on is really, really important. And this is a nice issue because you can be for something, right? We can all be for plug-in solar, and they just want to learn more and about how they can bring that solution to their constituents. We're also encouraging you to write letters to your editor. So we have a guide that can help get you started, and our team will even help you review those if you'd like a little extra support. And then also, if you want to get involved, I've seen a lot of you reaching out. And again, so just reach out to us at advocacy@solarunitedneighbors.org, and we'll be happy to respond to those requests and talk a little bit more about how we can get more engaged in your state if we aren't already. And then if you go to the next slide. And here's just a picture of our map, lots of maps, but we are going to update this. It's going to switch to kind of reflect the current state of where a lot of legislatures came to a close in May. So we're working on getting this updated to reflect, where those bills will potentially see action again in the coming months. So again, there's the website there. But should we take any additional questions? We have 10 minutes. Annie, did you by any chance see a question that would be good? I see a lot of stuff about VPPs.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of UL questions. So everybody wants to know about UL if we want to go
Okay.
there. Otherwise, we can send them the follow-up. That's probably one of the more common ones that we've been getting in the chat and the Q&A.
Yeah, I can take that. We could talk about that for another full hour. So I will try to give the short answer. So I think most people on this call know on December 11th of last year, UL have released its first guidance for safety criteria for a plug-in system end-to-end. So that was a huge milestone. We've been waiting for that guidance for quite some time. Good news, bad news. Good news, they came out with it. Bad news, it's incredibly restrictive. And we know it's going to change as it goes through the ANSI process. I am under strict instructions to not say anything bad about UL, and I know that they have our safety at heart, and that's what motivates them. But by all accounts, they are moving quite slowly. And part of our work in the coming year as a coalition is going to be trying to speed this thing up. Because people want this now. They don't want this 2 years from now. We know, because we know that people who will be on the technical committee, they've already done the technical analysis. They have already shown beyond any doubt that below a certain threshold, they say 360 watts and below, it is absolutely safe, even on an American branch circuit system, 120-volt system. So we know it's safe, and we know UL will deem it safe to be installed without an electrician below that 360 watt level. Right now, for UL 3700, which is the guidance that came out on December 11th, they require an electrician for all systems. So, but Anya hit the nail on the head when she framed it as this is the first necessary step. This is a marathon, not a sprint, as we all know. And the more states pass this legislation, the more pressure we put on UL to get a move on. And we know they're going to get there. It's just a question of how quickly they're going to get there.
I'm going to add something, which is a reaction to what I'm reading in the chats on the side. I really appreciated your explanation, Cora. A lot of people are like, well, why plug-in solar? Why not VPPs? Isn't community solar a better solution? And it really depends on where you are and what your goals are. And they all ultimately we'll have all of the above and they'll all fit together and reinforce each other. And in some states, especially states where solar is quite difficult right now, you got to start with plug-in solar because it's going to be the fastest, most accessible way to get real numbers of people involved and go there. In
Yeah.
other states where there is, say, whatever, didn't Connecticut was one of the ones that passed it, or
Yeah.
Maine,
Yeah.
you're passing plug-in solar in the first year, and they've got VPP legislation. They probably have community solar. They're doing all three. So VPPs is virtual power plants, and that's linking up networks of distributed solar and storage or distributed demand. So there's not a one's better than the other. It depends on where you are and what you're trying to get done first. But I think that the lesson about the thing that's so important about plug-in solar is it kind of busts away all this bullshit. I'm not supposed to say bullshit, but it busts away all this anti-solar mythology that's being generated. Whether the mythology is it turns your cows green, or whether the mythology is it's noisy, both of which are not true, or the mythology is it's a cost shift, using less energy from the grid because you're making some of your own on your balcony is not hurting anybody. And I think what we kind of have to lay the fundamentals. Solar saves you money, it's equitable, it's accessible. That's what plug-in solar does, is it lays these fundamentals to the market that helps us win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, in and of itself, will add to a lot, and it'll allow us to build a bigger movement. But it's the fundamentals about how to think about solar. Solar saves you money, and that's what we need to win, that fight, and then we can win the rest.
100%.
Now,
Yeah,
there's
no,
19
numbers.
new comments and questions in there, so
Yeah. And again, I think you laid the groundwork, Anya, decades ago. We need to become a neighborhood collectively across the nation, negotiating the best prices for our neighborhood of the United States of America, because we're losing the manufacturing war. Again, I can talk about that for a while, but that's exactly right, Anya. It's numbers. It's numbers of us voting as a voting block and a consumer block. And if we can get there, and if plug-in solar can expand the movement, if plug-in solar can get community solar into more neighborhoods, more areas, if it can get more rooftop solar incentives, like that is what it's all about. It's the tip of the spear. And if we can do that, we can get to that bigger vision.
I think that's a great place to stop. I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight, and everybody can reach us. You've got the email, we can follow up there. The recording will go out to everyone who has participated so they can watch it again or share, and just really appreciated spending this hour with all of you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya and Cora. Thank you, Annie. Appreciate you all. You had so many great endings. I just didn't want it to ever, to our time to ever come to completion. So thank you all again. We'll be sending out these resources, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for all that you're doing to support the movement.
Yay.
Take care.
Absolutely.
Erin,